Sure.
We'll put the email addresses down on this particular piece of paper. Maybe you can take one more question while things are
I saw three more hands, so if we do the three real quick, but yeah.
Just a general question about democracy, Hamas, and nonviolence.
Yeah.
I'll leave it up to you.
Okay, well, after the whole flotilla incident, it was interesting, and one Hamas leader said, this flotilla thing did more for us than 1,000 rockets. And indeed, despite the way some people in the West tried to make it appear that somehow the flotilla people were the aggressors, I think most people recognize that this illegal attack of a humanitarian aid ship in the high seas was a violation of international humanitarian law, and especially in the reports that 5 of the 9 people killed were shot execution style in the back of the head. It was not self-defense like everybody from John Kyle to Barbara Boxer claimed it was. And it did bring world attention to the humanitarian crisis, and it did force Israel to liberalize somewhat the restrictions they're putting onto it, and I think people in Hamas pay attention to that. What does shelling Israel do? It just gives an excuse to kill people by the hundreds and destroy what little they have. So I found that rather interesting that they've that Hamas on very pragmatic grounds are looking at this kind of thing. And similar on the West Bank, where we see more and more people getting interested in strategic nonviolent action. I know some folks who did some seminars and other things. It's not just the usual suspects, the Christian intellectuals in Ramallah or whatever that are interested in this. We're seeing, even some of the younger Tanzim militants, who fought the Israelis in the Second Intifada, realizing, hey, and they have not renounced violence. They do see it as their right to resist violently, but realize that up against the Israelis, they really can't find a realistic scenario of gaining their freedom that way. So they're starting to learn stuff and study the stuff, and even Abbas has expressly talked about nonviolent resistance, as part of their struggle. Given the futility of the armed struggle, and for that matter, the futility of the diplomatic struggle so far.
Yeah, in today's times, the Syrian human rights activist is quoted as saying that many more people and groups would join the protests, but the big fear is what succeeds an Assad regime.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And is there any precedent for nonviolent protest to work out an accommodation in a society like the Syrian society?
The simple answer is no, just because there are not many societies like Syria's anywhere. It's really hard to think of an analogous situation. But I think my sense in Syria is that, in many ways, in Egypt, is that the more hardline Islamists, which everybody was so scared of, is definitely is now at this point of an older generation. I know the Egyptians I've worked with believes the Brotherhood and their aging leadership was out of touch with their day-to-day reality as the Mubarak regime was. And I'm not as clear about Syrian situation, but most of the people in the protest are definitely of a younger generation, seem to be secular in orientation, and you read all about the Alawites as a Sunni majority, but it's a secular regime. It's much more of a clan thing than a religious thing. So I think that the concern people had in the 80s and 90s of the Islamists coming to power in Syria if the Assad's fell is overstated. Also, I think that but again, I'm just less familiar with who's who in Syria right now than I am in some of the other cases to say with much confidence.
Layla, what do you say about Syria?
I'm just sitting and watching. I too am very surprised by how things programs have rolled out, and, you know, from day to day, I'm surprised. I'm surprised by the massive casualties today. So perhaps in a way I'm a little too involved to have formed a coherent predictive mechanism right now. So I'm watching from Friday to Friday.
Yeah, one thing that really does strike me about is that this is, we're talking about monarchies, we're talking about autocratic pro-Western republics, we're talking about, you know, socialist Syria, you know, we've seen, you know, smaller things in Oman, Algeria. I mean, that again, this is despite the effort of people to make it a larger geopolitical, you know, kind of thing. This is, you know, not a, you know, classic left-right or pro-West, anti-West thing. This is indeed a broader freedom thing, and that's what I think makes it one of the things that makes it so exciting. So. Thank you very much. Again, I have a few books here, both the Civilian Jihad and the Nonviolent Social Movements. And if they, you know, if I'm out by the time you get up here, you can sign up on a sheet with your mailing address, and I'll get some more to you.